Hello, everybody. My name is Kiana Monroe, if you don't know already, and this is the live Life Matters podcast for the book club. And I'm going to give it a little bit of time and let a few people come in before I get started. I'm really going to try and figure out the private chat so that I can actually chat with everyone while they're in here and while they're live. So one of the things that I'll be doing is talking about my journal and kind of where I am. The whole point and purpose of the live is to kind of talk to you guys about where you are every month while working on, your journaling skills and your areas of healing on your life journal, right? On your life journal, your life journey. And it's interesting because everyone has phases and stages of life where, writing in that journal is not the easiest thing to do. I know for me, sometimes I have to really, really make myself write in my journal because there's so much going on in the world, a lot of chaos that's going on in the world, a lot of traumatizing events that are going on, that's kind of going on in the world. It hinders your ability to kind of, or at least for me, my ability to just sit still and focus and kind of get all my feelings out in the journal every week, and really gathering my thoughts and my awareness to kind of focus on getting it all out, and even having the words to describe how I'm feeling so that I can get it all out. I'm not always like the best at doing that or good at doing that. So one of the things that is kind of in my writing for this month, because we are in April, is really going through the layers of like Sexual Assault Awareness Month, right? And going through what that means and how I interpret that and how do I process that in my life, right? And it's interesting because I do have a lot of layers when it comes to that. And journaling about it is not always the easy. So really quickly, last month, we really talked about forgiveness. I shared a lot about what I dealt with my grandmother passing, and my uncle, and things that were allowed, and the importance of forgiveness, and talking a little bit about the process of forgiveness and how that affects you and your day-to-day, and kind of forgiving people that are not sorry, and giving grace for yourself as you process and heal that in those areas in your life of like really letting go, right? This month is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, right? And if anyone doesn't know, each year during the month of April, I wrote it down, I write notes. Each year during the month of April, state, territory, tribal, community-based organizations, rape crisis centers, government agencies, campuses, and individuals just kind of plan a lot of events and activities that focus to highlight sexual violence as public health, human rights, and social justice issues, and reinforce the need for prevention efforts, and also support for those who have endured and survived sexual assault, because that is very, very, very traumatic. Let me pay attention to comments. Oh, hey, Adrienne. Yes. Let me see, to your point, what is your recommendation for places in our journal where there are gaps in time in writing. She would just pick up where we left off or where we have missed some time. Yeah, just, you know what, if you missed a week, just start from, the last week. Or if you, for me, sometimes what I do is I will go into my journal and I'll know like I missed last week. And maybe I'll write that down, missed this entire week, to write and reflect. So what I'm going to do is put next time in NT and add it into the next time if I was able to reflect on it. If you completely forgot about it, then just, you can start where you are. But the reason why it's kind of important to do it week by week is because every month you have your goal setting, right? And there is a gnat in here. It's driving me crazy. I have like tons of flowers, so sometimes you get bugs. But you have your monthly goals that you set, right? And at the end of that month, so you have your 4 weeks, and at the end of that month, you have to reflect on everything that you were able to accomplish that month. So one of the things that you may put on there is that you didn't get a chance to journal as much as you did, as much as you wanted to, that month. You need to put that into the end result of that month, right? So I missed 2 weeks of journaling, which is something that's on my to-do list, and to remain consistent, because this is a commitment that we make to ourselves for the betterment of, our wholeness. And so it's driving me crazy. So if you're missing that, you want to get into the habit of doing it. So good question, Boo. So going over the sexual assault awareness month makes me think about some stuff for me that I realize it's like a lot of layers, right? So most people think sexual assault is like a physical touch, like physical aspect, or an inappropriation of like boundaries and physical space. But, it's also verbal and sometimes even emotional. But someone can assault you verbally by disrespecting you and saying something sexual that they have no consent to whatsoever. It doesn't have to just be physically. And my layers of that, the things that I've written in my journal for the month of April, is the phases and stages of assault, and how that plays a part in my patterns, in my perspective, in my emotional stability, availability, and vulnerability when it comes to other people and interacting with other people. And also how it affects a lot of my choices, right? So when I think about forgiveness of others from last month, I have to kind of forgive myself kind of consistently, because one thing I notice is that, sometimes I would punish my pain growing up, right? And I would gain addictive patterns and behaviors that were created by some of the things that I experienced, right? And one of the things that I have a big issue with is, trying to control a lot of my outcomes, because I didn't have a lot of control over a lot of situations when I was younger. So I can be a control freak to a degree. I like to feel as though if I can take preventative measures and keep myself from a fall, then I would like to do it. Or if I know I'm going to fall, let me just kind of prepare with some cushion in advance. You know what I mean? Like, it drives me crazy sometimes when I don't know the outcome of every problem. And, I'm a problem solver, and I'm consistently researching and studying new ways to have solutions for problems. And sometimes I can't seem to do that when it comes to my own problems, right? And that can really increase someone's stress. Radical acceptance is something that I had to come to terms with. I journaled about that this month, and accepting things that I cannot control and accepting things that have happened, right? That are still no longer in my control because it's in the past and it's over. And one of the things I like to say is everything that has happened to you has already happened to you. And if you constantly revisit that pain without intention of healing it, right, then you are going to live in a mental and emotional prison your whole life with no growth and no improvement and no awareness of how that pain affects your relationships and your choices and decisions when it comes to the things that you want, and your behavioral patterns and habits that you have that are not conducive to where you want to be in your life or where you are in your life and your areas of like growth and healing. Like you're not going to be able to focus on that if you are stuck in the things that have happened to you with no intention other than to emotionally cut, right? Because if something happened to you in your past that was hurtful and painful, and you're constantly revisiting it without healing it, you really are cutting emotionally. And eventually it's going to be cut after cut after cut, and you're just going to kind of bleed out. And then you're going to bleed out onto others that are not responsible for the pain that you are causing to yourself and enduring. It's unfair, and it's like a cycle, and it's a pattern. And it's really unfair to somebody that you are in a relationship with, or your friendships, or people that you work around, to constantly either be held accountable or blamed, or to have to endure your level of brokenness and inability or lack of desire to want to heal that area in your life, right? So one of the things, the notes that I wrote, and I'm going to look at it in my journal, is in my layers of kind of sexual assault and sexual abuse, is being young. It started back when I was really young, as you guys know. You go from one thing after another, and that actually creates CPTSD, which is complex post-traumatic stress disorder. And I wrote that, when I was young, I was taught that, I am only wanted or needed when I am sexually open or available. And because everyone wants to be wanted and needed, it planted in my subconscious that this is my only value and only worth. And I learned that by consistently being taken advantage of at a young age, and consistently being violated with no protection, with no safety, with no belief system in regards to the adults in my life. And so it also taught me things. It created behavioral habits. So I said the actions behind those thoughts and those feelings that I experienced when I was really young is promiscuity, sexual recklessness, sexual manipulation or addictiveness, lots of insecurities around my worth and my talent and my gifts. Another thing that was created for me was also, keeping secrets, being secretive, because when things were happening when I was young, I was told not to talk about it. And so I would actually just learn how to suppress my emotions, suppress my voice and my ability to socialize about, my moments and my experiences. And then it also kind of taught me to lie to, you know, the people I trust, or lie to the adults, because I would go to school and, you know, tell everybody everything's fine. And if teachers are asking me questions, I'd be like, everything is fine and I'm okay. And technically I was not. And that played out into a learned behavioral habit and learned behavioral patterns, and wanting to have that control, like I said before, and kind of looking at relationships and friendships that I started to have when I was younger. It was all about controlling my space, controlling the type of friends that I have. On top of being very selective about the people I would share certain things with, you know, I was kind of constantly trying to manipulate their view of me, right? Because I felt like I had an image to uphold even as a younger person. In middle school and high school, I didn't want anybody to think that, you know, I was damaged, or quote unquote easy. So I felt like I wanted to have control over my sexuality and who I allowed access to me, and so on and so forth. So those are some of the things that I wrote in my journal. And I don't know if any of you guys have met anybody that's like that or experienced that for yourself, but I had to do a lot of work, right? So that was like some of my emotional cutting I would constantly think about as I got older, all that stuff that I went through when I was younger, and how my behavioral patterns, you know, blossomed into a lot of negative traits that weren't good for me, right? Um, and trying to peel back those layers and unlearn conditioned programming, right? Which supports negative behavioral patterns and habits. Took years. It took years. It took years of therapy. This is why I'm a big advocate on counseling and therapy, because it takes a village to raise a child, right? And I believe that it takes, you know, a community, and the community doesn't have to be a whole bunch of people, but it could be 2 or 3, right? I think it takes a community to heal. You can't just do it by yourself, even though you're responsible for your healing. Means you're responsible for the work that's required during your healing process. However, you know, counselors and support groups and the resources that are available are also very, very important and part of your community. So if you don't have that, I highly recommend, you know, that you get it, because and to be patient with yourself. So I really want to push patience and grace, and ease up on the self-criticism and the self-judgment on your process, right? Because you destabilize and kind of hinder your growth on your life journey, right? Because you lack, you know, the self-compassion and the grace and the patience that is required and needed and necessary to grow, right? And I think we really need that on this journey. I know I do. I constantly have to remind myself to sit in my humanness and feel what I need to feel, so that I can process it, and get through it, and then be able to identify when I feel it the next time and have a better response or reaction to it. And I don't think that we necessarily do that enough. We're constantly on the go, constantly on the move, constantly trying to get to the next thing. And sometimes we'll say, well, we don't have time to process all that information. We won't have time to sit with a bunch of feelings. So you suppress it. But if you keep doing that, it is going to come out, and it's going to not necessarily outlive, but I think that it's going to come back up to the surface as a form of projection, right, upon other people, right, that mirror the work that you need to be doing with yourself and mirror all the stuff that you're trying to suppress, right? So that's something that I know I'm definitely working on, especially now. So some current hiccups that I've been dealing with is all of this stuff going on in the States, in America, with all of the murders and the killings and things like that. I've been journaling about that as a mother of a Black son. I have cried, I think, every day over the past week and some change, right? Wanting to control the outcome, meaning wanting to control, what happens. I felt like if I could just saran wrap and bubble wrap my son and keep him here, that would be the safest thing until something changes in the world or until something better happens in the world. But that's not living. That's, well, let me change that. That is living, but that's no way to live, because you're living in fear. And unfortunately, a lot of people of color are living in fear of their life and their livelihood, of the very people that claim to protect and serve. And so what I've been trying to do as I journal this month is, how do I work on the trauma, and how do I process this trauma so that it doesn't overtake and overwhelm and depress me, and also debilitate my ability to do the work that I'm doing. I think that it's really important to be a part of the change that you want to see. If you look out into the world and you see no light, that is your opportunity to be it. That's your opportunity to see, what, there are some solutions that need to be had in the world that we live in. And what can I do? How can I play my part in offering a solution to this bigger problem? Look at the micro steps that you can take, the little small baby steps that you can take to the overall goal, and the macro win. And I think that one of the things that I can do is counsel as many people as possible, reach out to organizations, reach out to corporations, or respond to the inquiries of coming and being of support to other people who are enduring, the trauma and are unable to process their feelings or communicate effectively how they're feeling, and how it's affecting them in a negative way in their day-to-day life, and how they show up for work, and how they show up in the world, and how they show up for their family and for their kids. And just using my own experience, my own personal experience, to be able to bring a level of relatability to that. Because there are a lot of people who are inquiring about the counseling, or like a type of book, or like a resource, So that's being a part of the change, because stressing about it every day, that's not going to do anything for me but like keep me in depression or keep me in sadness. But it is the reality. It's definitely, my reality, and it's a lot of other people's reality. And it's a lot. It's a lot to endure. And the crazy thing is, just because, you're strong doesn't mean that you want to endure pain all the time, right? Sometimes I always say, I'm strong enough. I'm strong enough. I don't need no more. Wait, like stop. Like no more. But I don't want to perfume myself with pain and call it strength. No, like, that kind of reeks off of you. It's not strength to just endure all the time. It's not. Being able to manage your stress is ideal. And these situations in the world that we're living in is stressful. It's traumatic and it's stressful. So some solutions would be: one, journaling; two, going to counseling. I had to find some ways to self-soothe, right? The things that I do is I light candles. I make sure that I eat, and I always, treat myself with something sweet, even though that does not support my hot girl summer goals, my summer body and my goals. I still, try to give myself something sweet as a tactic of self-soothing. Don't judge me. Judge your mama. But another thing is, I've actually got some people that, really love me and sent me some flowers. So I'm really happy because flowers make me happy. So I feel really loved. A thing that I do is I also go out and get myself some flowers, as an act of self-care, self-love, not waiting for anybody to validate me and offer me some kindness and compassion, but to give to myself. And radical acceptance also is something that I do as a form of self-soothing. And radical acceptance for me is not living in denial of what's going on in the world. It is accepting what is so that I can live through it, if that makes sense. So that I can live through it instead of, I guess, just floating through it. And when I say live through it, I'm focusing on the moving forward and the walking forward versus just kind of being stuck in a moment and paralyzed in the trauma that you're enduring and in the pain that you're enduring, because you don't have to stay stuck and stagnant there or become complacent and think that this is all you're ever going to get. So this is all that you're going to want for yourself, is just enduring trauma all the time and constantly, enduring stress all the time. So walking through it is ideal. Oh, hi, Jurgen from Germany. We all love you the most. Thank you. I love you too. I love you guys too. So I want you, we only have maybe like 2 weeks left in the month of April. And I really want you to focus on your self-soothing tactics, right? And what you have to radically accept so that you can grow. And it doesn't mean that you don't acknowledge what you're accepting. Like, for example, I accepted that I am a survivor of sexual assault and sexual abuse, verbal and physical abuse, right? I'm not okay with that at all. but I accept that that is an experience that I had. And remember, what has happened to you has already happened to you, right? So I accept that what has happened to me has already happened to me. And where I sit in the now at 39 is a healthier version of myself, right? And I know that I am a healthier version of myself, which is always open for improvement, right? I never feel like I've just arrived somewhere and that I have nothing left to learn. I have plenty to learn and I can learn it from anybody. But it means that I have a level of self-compassion for myself. I believe that I am enough and I am worthy of unconditional love, patience, forgiveness, kindness, good communications, gifts, all that, that God has to offer and has available for me. I'm worthy of it, right? I don't strip myself of worth because of what I lived through and the experiences that I lived through. And I try my best to figure out solutions to problems that are similar to my own, that can help other people. And that is a part of my radical acceptance, right? And really, that just makes me stronger. It gives me purpose. So I want to know what you guys do as a form of self-soothing and radical acceptance, and how you're kind of shifting and changing that for the betterment of yourself and others. How are you addressing any of the traumatic experiences that have happened to you? And what are you doing about it? Where do you see yourself? How do you want to look back at the moment that you're experiencing right now, right? 10, 20 years from now, do you want to say, I spent 2021 focusing on nothing but the bad of 2020, or 10 years ago, or 15 years ago, and I sat there and I did some emotional cutting with no intention or no active steps forward to healing it. And here I am, 10 years later, and I still have not. You don't want that, right? Because the purpose of having your journal month to month to month is for you to kind of track your progress, right? It's for you to become aware of your strengths, be aware of your challenges, and look at those and see what areas need more love, what areas need more improvement. As we make our mistakes, which is common and expected to make, we're not judging or condemning those. We are looking at it in with a level of love and light and compassion, right? Where do I need more love? For me, I feel like I need more love when it comes to really trying to control my outcome. Like I tend to be hard on myself because I'm controlling. And my compassion for me is just loving a little more on my inner child, right? And letting her know that she can trust me as the adult, even though when I was young, I couldn't. I couldn't talk to the adults. I couldn't trust the adults. I didn't feel safe around the adults. But I can assure my inner child now that the adult me will always listen to her, and will always protect her and will always keep her safe, right? And that is my level of, compassion. And I need to consistently add love in that area, right? Consistently kind of tell myself, you can do it. You're okay. You made a mistake in this area, and we're just going to grow and we're going to heal. And what are some resources that I can do, and start actively participating, right, in the healing of areas that need more love and that require more love, and decide to make better choices and decisions for me, as an act of self-love, right? Not as a burden. Remember, we're not supposed to be making these choices and changes in our patterns and our habits as a burden, but more so as I love me, and I'm going to add more love in these areas. And so I'm going to win because love always wins, right? So that's what I want you guys to focus on for the month of August. If you can support any organization that focuses on sexual assault or any type of sexual abuse, whether it is prevention or post, I highly, highly encourage you to do that. And then when it comes to the things that's going on currently with the trauma in our world, I mean, yeah, we're still in the pandemic, so I really want you to take care of your health. But also, if there are any resources or organizations that you can offer others or find yourself supporting, I highly, highly encourage you to do that as well. And really take some time to make yourself a priority on the list this month for your healing, right? I wrote a saying. I wish I could find it. I posted it on LinkedIn. So don't judge me if I can't find it. Let's see. So one of the things that I posted was, let me see if I can find it. No, I can't find it. That's okay. No judgment. Oh, it was my healing. I found it. Okay. So allow yourself, and I said this, allow yourself the grace to fall apart this month, right? Knowing that you are literally wired to pull yourself back together again. You are. Our bodies are consistently healing, right? So it's okay to sit in your humanness with everything that's going on. And it's okay to allow yourself to be human for the moment. That moment can last an hour. That moment can last a day. That moment can last a week. But it's your moment to fall apart and decompress and, just sit in in the center of all the pieces and all the shambles and all of the chaos, and put it back together in a way that is healing and soothing and considered as like a growing pain. Like, where can I grow from all of this chaos? What lesson can I learn? How can I be better? How can I move forward? How can I use all of this that's everywhere around me that looks like chaos and mess and bullshit? How can I put this all together to give to somebody else as a blessing, so that they can learn from my chaos and all my mistakes and all my falling apartness? That's not a word, but so what? And the second one is, I say this all the time, hurt cannot hold you hostage unless you give it permission to, right? Going back to my phrase, whatever has already happened to you has happened to you, right? You have to kind of give permission for hurt to run havoc, in your life. When, the point and purpose of having your life journal is to really look at this journey that you're on and build a new house of love that you want to live in, right? So if you have a shattered heart, you have to take the time to look at all the pieces and rebuild that. And hurt does not have permission to come into my house that I've spent all this time organizing and healing and mending and tossing out stuff that's not supposed to be there. It doesn't have permission to come in there and run amok and cause more chaos or keep me in a state of like a prisoner, right? No, that like I don't like who wants to deal with that? Like nobody. And you have to give it permission to do that. And we have a lot more control than we allow ourselves to believe when it comes to our emotions and our mindset. We can't control 100,000 thoughts that tend to pop in and come and go, but we can control the ones that we allow to come and sit and plant seeds and build, right? We have control over that. You know, that's the point and purpose of the scripture at the bottom of your week. You know, you guys notice that every week in your journal, in the note section, it says whatever the affirmation is on the top and whatever the scripture is on the bottom. The reason and purpose for that is I want you guys to consistently repeat the affirmation. That affirmation that week is the one that you repeat often, right? The same thing with the scripture. I want you to repeat it often, because when negative thoughts come into your mind or things that, you know, you feel like are not true or fucked up, then you want to replace it quickly with something that's constantly in your mind, right? And if the positive affirmations, if the scripture is constantly in your mind, then you can counter a negative thought even though it comes in. It won't sit there with you and, you know, drive you crazy, right? I'm not going to get, for example, I'm not going to get this job because maybe I overcharged, or I'm not worthy of what I charged a client, or I am not worthy. They're not, you know, someone's not going to call me back, or they're not going to pursue a relationship with me because I am unworthy of ... fill in the blank, right? But if you have that thought and you say, you know what? No, I am worthy of all things that are meant to be blessings in my life, period. With no counter, with no explanation. It just is a period, right? That's a good counter. And that's the point and purpose of having the affirmations. That's the point and purpose of when you're writing in that in your journal and you're consistently memorizing new things to think about. Then you also create a new language for yourself. You're creating a new love language for yourself, and how you want to speak to yourself, and how you think about yourself, and how you show up for yourself. You'll start to believe it. I always say keep going until, you know, the belief sets in as like concrete actuality for you, right? And that's now authentic to your makeup, because you have kind of ingrained those positive informations, and you've ingrained and weaved into this web of confusion. You have now weaved a new web in your mindset of all the positive scripture and all the good that God says about you. You now believe and say about yourself. And that's what I want you all to do, is create your new love language. And if you are not doing your life jars, get on it, right? Some of the feedback that I've heard from a lot of the lifestyle jars is that it kind of forces you to be accountable. It forces you to take notice of your behavioral habits and patterns that you keep saying you want to change and you don't. So then you have to look at it and say, why? Why am I not changing it? You know, why do I keep suppressing it? Why do I keep putting it aside? Why do I think that it's not a priority? Why do I consistently lack effort in this area? I say I want to change it. I say I want improvement, but my actions are not matching my words. So I am abandoning myself and kind of teaching other people to not to kind of do what I do, you know, to just say words and not show up in action with your words for me, right? Because I'm not doing it for me. And I know that that might be a little deep, but at the end of the day, it that's kind of what it is. When you say you want to make change, you have to actively participate, right, in the steps that are required for the change to occur, because it's not going to happen without you. And if you don't take the time to write it down or acknowledge it and assess it, you're never going to change it, right? You want to attach a why to your change. Why? And that's in your journal. So if you notice that in your journals you have your vision board and you have your columns, before that, you guys notice, and I really hope you all have written in there, what areas of my life do I want to work on? Why is it important for me to work on these? What do I believe is going to be the outcome if I take the time to heal, if I take the time to add love here, if I take the time to make, this improvement? What does that look like? What does that healing look like, right? So for example, and I have examples in there. Say, for example, I wrote in there that I want to practice more mindfulness, right? And I want to do that because I tend to be reactive more than I am responsive, which means I'm not managing my emotions. I lash out. I'm quick to cuss somebody out. I have the worst road rage. I do have bad road rage, though. Anyway, but those are things that I say I want to work on, and then I have my lifestyle jars, and I never take the time to participate in the steps. What are the steps? Mindfulness, right? I want more of a calm demeanor. I want to think before I speak. I want to be more compassionate about the experiences that I have, versus, all the other negative things, right? That support that. And what does that look for me? What does that look like for me? Peace, calm, not being negatively shifted and having my mood and energy shifted just because other people do things that I don't like. Like, I have more control over myself, my emotions, my reactions to things that are going to happen on the day-to-day. However, if I say that this is how I want to be at the end, and these are the areas where I lack, the in-between, which are the steps, which is the purpose of your lifestyle activity, is mindfulness. What do I need to do to be mindful? Okay, I need to block 5 to 10 minutes off a day, or at least a week, something. It's an action item, some action item that's going to support my words and the commitment and promise that I made to myself. You guys have all signed, and I really hope you guys signed. don't have your journal and didn't sign the commitment to self, that's contract for you, right? That's a promise that you're making to yourself. So if you don't sign it, then you're already kind of setting yourself up for failure, saying, I don't want to really commit to all the work that's going to be required in this journal. But if you don't commit to those steps, you're not committing to your why. And then you can't get upset when you don't get there and you don't make it and you don't see any change and and now you're stagnant and you've gotten complacent and you don't know why. I know why. You're not doing you're not doing your steps, right? And that's the same thing. Another example is money. You want to buy a house, you want a better credit score, you want to buy investment property, you want to have a bigger savings account, right? So you put that in your column. This is where I can add more love, is as an act of self-love. It's managing my stress about money and my fear of money, feeling like I'm never going to have enough, or I'm never going to have anything saved or cushioned for, in case of emergency, or I'm never, whatever your fear is, whatever your whatever is, right? And I want to save at least 20% of my income, or have, if you want to put a number on it, I want to be able to put away at least $1,000 a month, or $500 a month, or whatever your number is, because it will give me a sense of ease, right? It'll give me a sense of self-fulfillment, right? And it'll take away some of my anxiety and my stress, right? And I love me so much that I don't want me stressing off of money all the time. So there is your why. There is your area of where I need to add more love. And then you have your center, which is your lifestyle, your current lifestyle, which is not saving money, and your desired lifestyle, saving money. What are the steps to do that? And then committing to those steps. I'm not going to buy any food this week that is just unnecessary splurging when I have food at home type thing. And I have a bad habit of doing that. But, just saying I have food at home, I can take that money that I would buy, that I would just go to Chick-fil-A, or I would go to I don't want to pay for a $25 salad. You know what I mean? I can just go get me a salad from the store and then take that money and put it elsewhere, right? This gnat thing is driving me crazy. This is what happens when you have a bunch of roses and flowers in your house. However, I forgot what I was saying. It's annoying. Anyway, yeah. So saving your money and really kind of sticking to that goal, then you'll be able to see your results. I really want you guys every month to be able to see your results. And so feel free to email me and let me know how you've been doing on your journey for the month of April. Where are your biggest challenges? Where do you need more love? How can I help you in that area? How can I support you in that area? Is there something that I can post more in regards to life tips that you would want me to post and see on social media that kind of target your challenges, right? I don't like to really call it weakness. But like your challenging areas, if there's something that I can do, by all means, let me know. Okay. So I have talked your ear off for about an hour now. I don't want to talk too much. It's Sunday. I really appreciate all of you who have come in and kind of stuck it out and listened to my outpouring and ramble and bit of lecturing to you about, the work that needs to be done. But I do it and I'm on you because I love you and I want you to be as healed as possible and grow as much as possible on your journey. So I'm leaving you all to enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have an amazing, amazing, amazing week. And I will see you in May. Bye, everyone.